Call it the emo presidency, because Donald Trump has been sharing his emotions this week, telling the world he's, quote, unhappy about this budget deal that his own party reached with Nancy Pelosi. So the signs are clear. He may be on the verge of caving again on all this budget stuff. GOP leadership have told him sign the new border bill, even without wall money, which has drawn conservative pushback. Today, Trump seemed at something of a loss to explain whether he will sign the deal or use another option.
Well, we haven't gotten it yet. We'll be getting it. We'll be looking for landmines. We're building a lot of wall right now with money that we already have. Regardless of what I do, you know, we already have, as you know, a lot of money where we're building existing wall with existing funds. But I have a lot of options.
Polls show most Americans do want to avoid another shutdown, which would increase public pressure on Trump. But his penchant for responding more to a few Americans in conservative media is well known. There are new clues, however, that even some of those voices are now more supportive of this new bill.
By the way, on this new so-called compromise, I'm getting details, $1.3 billion. That's not even a wall, a barrier. I'm going to tell this tonight, and we will get back into this tomorrow. Any Republican that supports this garbage compromise, you will have to explain. I'm not as concerned as some other conservatives if the president signs the bill.
I'm joined by Juanita Tolliver from the Center for American Progress Action Front and Jack O'Donnell, former chief operating officer and president of a Trump casino. There he is in 1989 near Trump, co-author of Trump, the Inside Story of the real Donald Trump. So we'll talk deal making in a moment. But Juanita, is this Donald Trump caving again? And is Sean Hannity, in your view, laying a groundwork for that?
I mean, look, you never know with Trump. Right now, he's hedging. One minute he's upset. The next minute he wants to avoid a shutdown, but won't commit to actually signing the bill that would avert the shutdown. So it's unclear what to expect, especially after we found ourselves in the longest shutdown in U.S. government history around Christmas time. And so it's unclear right now. And it sounds like Republicans are starting to back off as well, because that statement from Sean Hannity sounds like he understands what a loss looks like. And honestly, this is a really, really unfortunate disappointment for Trump, because he held so strong on this. He has failed. I think the other thing that is interesting here is that the White House should not expect Americans to take this the way they took it last time. We saw how air traffic controllers brought the previous shutdown to an end. Flight attendant union already said they will strike. So there's so many negative repercussions that come along with Trump making that move. Yeah, Jack, I wonder if this could be taught in government negotiation or business school case studies for why you don't want to do too much negotiating in public, because you just don't leave yourself a lot of room. And take a look at some of Trump's normally loyal allies, also in conservative media, on all of this as it's played out. Take a look.
A lame-o border deal.
I think it's embarrassing. $1.375 billion.
That's a quarter of what he asked for. The president will have no choice. He will veto this.
Democrats are also breaking Pelosi's pledge.
This is amazing, because they were referring to building walls as immoral.
$1.375 billion. He can look at it. Look, it was zero.
Given the rhetoric, it's more than you might have expected.
The Democrats are moving in our direction. We can declare victory if we want.
Oh, goodness.
Well, Juanita, you first, since I hear you also emoting. Everyone's got emotions this week.
Like, it's just really shocking to hear the change, the full 180 that we're seeing there. Democrats are really coming around. I think not. I think what you have here was a conference committee that was looking to make a deal to, honestly, avert a shutdown that would impact millions of Americans, have negative repercussions for our economy, and be a big problem.
And Jack, it's not just Donald Trump seeming to go forward on this without having a plan for negotiation. All those people you just saw, he's dragged them in front of their own audiences for their own credibility, even as they try to help him. I mean, it didn't take us that long to make those clips, because all this stuff has happened recently.
Well, you're right. And what many of those people are doing for Donald Trump at this point as well is they're setting the stage for him to blame everybody but himself. And I think that's leaked into this at this point, where it was just the Democrats' fault. But now he's going to be able to, and this is typical Trump, because he's never responsible, he's going to be able to blame both parties here. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of here. But the interesting thing about this is every deal, there's an opportunity. And in this case, he absolutely blew the opportunity, I think, between the few days before the first shutdown and the week before, right before the employees lost pay, he had some leverage at that point to cut a deal that might have been happy for both sides.
So was he always like
resistance,
this? Was it always this sloppy in public, or did he used to maybe be better at it and has gotten worse? I mean, you know, is this really the way it always was? It's almost hard to imagine.
Well, Ari, I think that there's a facade or a fallacy in terms of how most of the negotiations took place in the business that I was running. And we did a lot of high-profile world championship events and, you know, between vendors, and we were negotiating all the time. We did that negotiating for him. So when it got to a critical point in a negotiation for like Tyson Spinks as an example, and we knew we were negotiating against Las Vegas, we went in and said, hey, we need to make the offer now or we're going to blow this deal. And we went in and made the, the offer and got the deal signed. We really just went to him for guidance. We're going to spend $12 million. We're going to spend $13 million to keep him informed. But we did most of the negotiating for him. And the other thing
on that, before you go to the next point, on that, let me ask you on that point, then would Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans, would they be better off if he treated you like them? I mean, by your analysis, the problem is just Donald Trump being hands-on instead of accepting from the people who do the negotiating. In this case, that would be the congressional negotiators who've been dealing with budgets and border funding and slats for decades. They would be, in this rough analogy, they would be like you were.
Well, I think that they've played that role over the last week and a half for sure. And literally the fate of this is in their hands because it now just has to come back to him. But he has no leverage here. If he had leverage a couple of weeks ago maybe, or before, during the first shutdown, but now there's no incentive politically or for any other reason for the Democrats to be anything but stronger than Trump is in this situation.
And spoken by one who knows how he thinks when it comes to, as you put it, deciding whether or not to approve the deals other people negotiate. Juanita and Jack, thanks to both of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.